Something about your soulmate's understanding of your connection has just fallen apart, because they recently discovered that the truth was not simply forgotten. It was kept from them. For a long time, they may have believed they knew exactly what happened between you. They may have assumed you stopped caring, that you were never serious about the connection, or that you simply chose to move on without looking back. They may have created an entire explanation for your distance based on the information they had. But now, they are beginning to realize that the information they received may never have been the complete story. Someone may have known something important about your connection and deliberately chose not to tell them. Maybe they knew how you really felt. Maybe they knew you had tried to reach out. Maybe they knew you were waiting for something from your soulmate, but allowed them to believe the opposite. And now, one discovery has made your soulmate question everything. Imagine trying to understand a story while someone has secretly removed the most important pages from the book. You can read every remaining word and still reach the wrong conclusion. That may be exactly what happened here. Your soulmate may now be looking back at the past and wondering whether they ever truly had the full truth about you. They may be asking who knew what you were feeling, who knew what happened between you, and why that information was never revealed. Because the story they believed may have been built on missing pieces. And the most shocking part is that the person who kept those pieces hidden may have known exactly how much the truth could have changed everything between you. And now, your soulmate is beginning to understand that the truth may have been hidden from them in a way that was far more deliberate than they ever imagined. For a long time, they may have believed that the story they knew was the complete story. They may have trusted what they were told, trusted what they were shown, and trusted the silence surrounding everything else. If someone told them that you were not interested, they may have believed it. If someone suggested that you had moved on, they may have accepted it. If someone made them feel that reaching out to you would only lead to rejection, they may have stepped back without ever knowing that the truth was completely different. And now, as new information begins to reach them, they may be realizing that nobody necessarily had to lie directly to them. Sometimes the most powerful way to control someone's understanding is simply to keep the most important truth out of the conversation. Imagine standing at a crossroads with someone handing you a map that has one entire road deliberately erased from it. You believe you are choosing between the only paths available, never realizing there was another direction that could have taken you somewhere completely different. Your soulmate may now be wondering whether that missing path was you. Maybe they were never told that you cared more deeply than you showed. Maybe they never knew that you had tried to reach out, that you had been waiting for them, or that you were dealing with your own emotions while they were assuming the connection meant nothing to you. And the more they discover, the more uncomfortable the questions become. Why was this never mentioned? Who knew? How long did they know? And why did they allow me to believe something completely different? Your soulmate may now be going back through old conversations in their mind, remembering moments that suddenly feel suspicious or incomplete. They may remember someone making a strange comment about you. They may remember being told not to contact you. They may remember being encouraged to move on because, according to what they believed, you had already done the same. At the time, those words may have seemed like advice. Now they may be wondering whether they were actually being influenced, because there is a difference between someone giving an opinion and someone intentionally keeping information from you because they know the truth could change your decision. And your soulmate may now be beginning to understand that difference. They may be realizing that the story they believed about your connection was not created only by their own observations. Someone else may have influenced what they knew, what they believed, and ultimately how they responded to you. They may not have been given a false story. They may have simply been denied the truth that would have changed the story. That realization can be deeply painful. Because your soulmate may now be wondering whether they ever truly had the freedom to make their own decision about you. If they had known how you really felt, would they have stayed? If they had known what you were going through, would they have reached out? If they had known that you were not rejecting them, would they have continued trying? These questions may now be running through their mind because the past no longer looks as simple as it once did. They may be realizing that while they were believing you did not care, you may have been waiting for them to understand something they were never allowed to know. And perhaps the most painful part is that you may have seen their distance and assumed they had chosen to leave you. Meanwhile, they may have been standing on the other side of a truth that someone deliberately kept hidden. Two people may have been affected by the same missing information, but neither of you knew what was really happening. Your soulmate may now be asking themselves whether the person who kept the truth from them knew exactly how important your connection was. Because if they did, then this was not simply a misunderstanding. It may have been a decision to remain silent. And now your soulmate is beginning to wonder whether that silence changed everything between you. And now your soulmate may be beginning to realize that the distance between you was not created by one single decision. It may have been built slowly through information that was missing, conversations that never happened, and outside influence they never recognized at the time. The more they learn, the more they may start connecting details from the past that once seemed completely unrelated. They may remember the moment they first began pulling away from you. They may remember something someone said about your feelings. They may remember being told that you were not interested, that you had moved on, or that trying to reconnect with you would only lead to embarrassment. At the time, they may have believed those words because they had no reason to question them. But now, after discovering what was deliberately kept from them, they may be looking back and wondering whether they were ever truly making their own decisions. Imagine two people trying to find each other in a crowded city, while someone keeps changing the directions. Both people may be searching, but neither realizes they are being sent in the wrong direction. That may be what your soulmate is beginning to understand now. They may have believed that you chose to walk away, while you may have been believing that they chose to leave you. And somewhere in the middle, someone else may have been holding information that could have changed the entire situation. Your soulmate may now be asking whether you ever tried to reach them, whether you ever expressed your feelings, whether you ever wanted to explain what was happening. And they may be discovering that the answer was very different from what they were led to believe. Maybe you were waiting for them to make the first move. Maybe you had already made an attempt, but the message never reached them in the way it was supposed to. Maybe someone discouraged you from trying again. Maybe someone made you believe that your soulmate had already chosen another path. And while both of you were reacting to what you thought was rejection, the real problem may have been the truth that was never allowed to reach either of you. Sometimes two people do not lose each other because they stopped caring. They lose each other because someone made sure they never understood what the other person was feeling. That realization may now be becoming painfully clear to your soulmate. They may be remembering all the times they tried to convince themselves that the connection was not real. They may remember telling themselves that you did not want them. They may remember forcing themselves to move forward because they believed you had already moved on. But now they are questioning whether they were protecting themselves from a rejection that never truly happened. And this is where the emotional shock begins to deepen. Because your soulmate may now realize that the person who kept the truth from them may have known exactly what would happen if they found out. They may have known that your soulmate would reach out. They may have known that your soulmate would ask questions. They may have known that the connection could become stronger if the truth came to light. And now your soulmate may be wondering whether the distance between you was something that naturally happened, or whether someone deliberately helped create it. They may be looking at old memories with completely new eyes. A strange warning suddenly feels important. A missing explanation suddenly feels suspicious. A conversation they once dismissed suddenly seems connected to everything they are discovering now. And the more pieces they put together, the harder it becomes for them to believe that the separation between you was simply fate. They may now be realizing that while they were trying to move on from you, they may have been doing so based on information that was never complete. And the most painful part is that you may have been doing the exact same thing. You may have believed they did not want you, while they believed you did not want them. Two people may have been waiting for a truth that someone else had already decided to keep hidden. And now your soulmate is beginning to understand that the connection they thought they lost may have been interfered with long before either of you realized what was happening. And now your soulmate may be feeling the full weight of the decisions they made while they were still unaware of the truth. For a long time, they may have believed that they were simply responding to what they saw. They saw you becoming distant, so they protected themselves. They believed you did not care, so they stopped trying. They thought the connection was one-sided, so they eventually convinced themselves that walking away was the only choice they had. But now, after discovering that someone deliberately kept important information from them, they may be looking back at those decisions with an entirely different perspective. They may be asking themselves whether they truly chose to let you go, or whether someone else quietly influenced the information that led them to make that decision. Imagine making one of the most important choices of your life while looking through a window covered in fog, believing you can see the entire landscape, only to discover years later that the most important part was hidden from your view. That may be how your soulmate feels now. They may realize that they were making decisions based on what they believed was true, but what they believed was never the complete truth. And this realization can create a painful kind of regret. They may remember the times they could have reached out to you, but chose not to. They may remember the moments when they wanted to ask questions, but allowed their pride, fear, or assumptions to stop them. They may remember believing that you had already moved on and telling themselves there was no reason to try again. But now they are wondering whether that belief was planted in them by someone who knew more than they ever revealed. Perhaps someone told them that you were not interested. Perhaps someone made them believe you had chosen another person. Perhaps someone knew that you were waiting for them, but never allowed that truth to reach them. And now your soulmate may be realizing that the decision to walk away may have been made under circumstances they never fully understood. They are not only regretting what they did, they are beginning to question why they ever believed they had to do it. That may be the thought repeating in their mind now. They may be wondering whether one honest conversation could have changed everything, whether one message could have brought you closer, whether one piece of truth could have prevented the distance that eventually grew between you. And perhaps the hardest part is that they may now understand you were affected by their decisions too. You may have watched them become distant and assumed they no longer cared. You may have seen them stop trying and believed they had chosen to leave you behind. You may have accepted their silence as proof that the connection was never important to them. Meanwhile, they may have been believing the exact same thing about you. Both of you may have been reacting to a story that neither of you had the power to complete because someone else was holding back the missing pieces. Your soulmate may now be feeling anger toward the person who kept the truth hidden, but beneath that anger may be something even deeper. Regret. Regret for the conversations that never happened. Regret for the chances that disappeared. Regret for the time spent believing that the connection had ended naturally, when perhaps it was being affected by information that should have been shared. They may now be asking whether the person who kept the truth from them understood exactly what they were doing. Did they know how much your soulmate cared? Did they know that the truth could have changed their decision? Did they understand that their silence might permanently separate two people who still had unfinished feelings? And now, as your soulmate continues discovering more, they may be forced to accept a painful possibility. The person who kept the truth from them may not have only hidden information. They may have changed the entire direction of your connection. Because if your soulmate had known what they know now, they may never have walked away from you in the first place. And now your soulmate is left with a truth they can no longer ignore. They have discovered that someone deliberately kept important information about your connection from them, and this realization has changed the entire meaning of the past. They may now understand that the distance between you was not as simple as they once believed. They may understand that you did not necessarily stop caring. They may understand that you may have been waiting, hoping, struggling, or trying to make sense of the same connection while they were receiving a completely different version of the story. And perhaps the most painful part is that your soulmate may now realize how many decisions were made while the truth was hidden. They thought you had moved on. They thought you did not want them. They thought the connection had ended because your feelings were no longer strong enough. But now they are beginning to understand that someone else may have controlled the information that shaped those beliefs. Imagine discovering the missing key to a door years after you stopped trying to open it. The key was always there. The door was always there, but you were never given the chance to use it. That may be how your soulmate feels now. They may be looking back at your connection and wondering what would have happened if they had known the truth from the beginning. Would they have reached out? Would they have stayed? Would they have fought for you? Would they have refused to let the connection disappear? These questions may now be impossible for them to escape. But discovering the truth does not automatically repair the consequences of what happened. Your soulmate may want to come toward you, but they may also be afraid. They may wonder whether you would believe them if they explained what they now know. They may worry that too much time has passed. They may understand that while they were waiting for information, you may have been forced to heal from the pain of believing they had chosen to leave you. And now they may finally realize that you were not necessarily given the truth either. You may have looked at their silence and believed they did not care. You may have seen them move away and assumed the connection meant nothing to them. You may have waited for a sign that never came, not knowing that someone else had helped prevent that sign from ever reaching you. Sometimes the truth does not arrive in time to prevent the pain. It arrives later to explain why the pain happened. Your soulmate may now be standing inside that realization. They know more now, but they cannot go back and change every moment. They cannot erase the misunderstandings. They cannot recover the time that disappeared. They cannot undo the decisions that were made while the truth remained hidden. But they can no longer pretend that the connection ended for the reasons they once believed. And if they return to you, they may have to come with honesty. They may have to admit that they were wrong about what you felt. They may have to acknowledge the influence of the person who kept the truth from them. They may have to accept that the connection between you was affected by something neither of you fully understood at the time. Your soulmate just found out that someone deliberately kept the truth about your connection from them. They thought you did not care. They thought you had moved on. They thought they knew why you were apart. But now they are discovering that the truth was hidden, and that one hidden truth may have changed the entire direction of your story. And the question they cannot stop asking is the one that may stay with them for a very long time. If they had known everything from the beginning, would they have ever let you go?